No, is that maybe your 12-year-old interpretation of it?
I
Are
don't
you a
know
lawyer?
what else. This is where we diverge from the procedures laid out in the act could possibly mean other than that.
Okay, that's fine. I can't believe he
He's
broke
pressuring his
customs
DOJ to
into the.
lie for it.
Because if you want to go into things that are bad, I can name you a bunch of things that the Democrats that have done that are bad.
When did Joe
And
Biden pressure his DOJ to lie for him?
when has Biden used the DOJ to go after
Nope,
individuals?
to lie for him.
When has okay? That's
To
what, in my
lie
opinion.
for him.
That's what, in my opinion, it's worse.
Kind of. I mean, there's a couple things that I don't mind. There's a couple things of Trump that I didn't mind, but I think his blatant disrespect for the office of the presidency is really bad.
Okay, so can you maybe tell me a set of policies or a policy that you like of Kamala's before we talk about why you don't like Trump?
A policy of Kamala's that I really like.
You're voting for her, you said, or are you voting for her, but you don't know her policies?
I'm voting for her because I don't want to vote for someone who tried to overturn an election illegally. I think
would you say you're voting
is most important?
Would you say that that's a slightly emotional answer?
No, because everything that Trump did is not based off of emotion, and I don't want to vote someone who doesn't have any respect for the office that he's going to be voted into.
Okay, can I ask you something? Can I ask you something? Okay, so if Kamala implements things that, do you have a family?
Yes, I have a family.
Okay, if Kamala implements things that will negatively impact your family, perhaps that will lead you to pay more taxes. You won't be able, maybe you'll have to, even because of the burden of inflation, whatever it is, you won't be able to live the quality of lifestyle that you usually do, afford certain things, have a direct impact on your life negatively. And then you have Trump over there that did some stuff in 2020. Are you still going to vote for Kamala Harris? Let's say you could have a crystal ball and just look into the future.
My past 4 years have been pretty decent. I haven't minded the past 4 years. I really hated 2020, and I really hated seeing this man try to attempt to completely disregard federal law to make himself president again. So,
but
you never answered the question. Yeah. We're trying to understand. I'm trying to understand how much your hatred. Well, we're trying to understand how much your hatred for Trump outweighs the direct impact that policies have on you. Because if, for me, for example, if I know an individual's policies will have a direct negative impact on me, regardless how much I may hate the other individual, if they propose a set of policies that will have a positive impact on my family when it comes down to financial stuff and public safety, then that is something to consider.
I don't think there's almost any reality where voting Donald Trump in with his flagrant disrespect for the office would be beneficial.
Okay, can I ask you what on January 6th, what direct negative impact did Trump did or what happened on January 6th have on your family?
Have on my family? The stability of the government.
Okay, what happened?
So what happened is he tried to pressure his DOJ to send fraudulent letters to the Georgia state legislature, falsely claiming that there was election fraud, even though there wasn't. And he threatened to fire the attorney general when he said that he wouldn't send the letter because the DOJ hadn't found any of that fraud. In addition to this, he sent fraudulent slates of electors and tried to pressure his vice president to unilaterally pick those.
Are you reading off a piece of paper right now?
Nope, I've just done a lot of research on
Did you memorize this exact phrase? Because the way you're following it, it sounds like you're reading straight off a piece of paper, and you're doing it with specific words that are normal, like in a normal speaking manner, you wouldn't come up with those exact words unless you were reading them. Like no one really speaks like this.
I talk about it a lot, and I like to be very precise with my words.
Okay, well, we like that conversation, just so I don't have to keep revisiting this thing. So if we can look into the future and we could see that Kamala Harris's policies directly negatively impact your family and yourself, you will still vote for her because it's not Trump, correct?
I will vote for someone who doesn't question.
Can you answer the question? Can you answer the question and not dance around it? Just so we can leave it in the past.
It's a loaded question.
It's not a loaded question. It's a simple question. If you asked me that question, I would answer it to you very quick, very precisely. So would Fabian, and probably with a lot of people on here. So I'm just asking you, before we start to talk about the election scheme and all that various things, can you just ask me and just answer this very basic question?
They both have a negative effect on my family. It's not a fair question.
Okay, understood. So at least I understand where you're at on that. So take me through January 6th or leading up to January 6th and stuff like that? What is the issue that you have?
So we can start with the Clark and Rosen stuff. He tried to get Jeffrey Rosen, the Attorney General, to send a letter to Georgia state legislatures saying that their election was fraudulent. And Rosen, and this is all, he testified to this under oath, said that the DOJ hadn't found any evidence of election fraud, and it's not within the scope of the DOJ's responsibility to tell a state how to run their election. So we're not going to send this letter. And then Donald Trump threatened to fire Rosen and replace him with Jeffrey Clark, who he shouldn't have even had communication with, because Clark said that he would send a letter for Trump telling Georgia that their election was stolen.
Can I ask you something? Anything that you've stated so far, has this been criminal, or is it criminal?
Does it matter if it's criminal?
Well, okay, so let's understand a couple of things here. If it's not criminal, then everything else to us, it's going to be a subjective thing. If you want to have the argument of subjectiveness, whatever opinion you may hold, that's fine, but we're not going to be able to agree on that. So can we agree at least on law, on something that we can both point to and say, yeah, that's wrong because that is criminal?
Well, the Supreme Court said that he has criminal immunity. That said that the president is immune from prosecuting this because of his official act.
Put that aside. Explain to me, where is the criminality anywhere?
It would probably be involved in a conspiracy to overturn the election, like it was in the indictment.
Okay. What did the indictment say?
The indictment said that there was a conspiracy to overturn the election, but
what was the conspiracy?
Came in and said that this aspect was.
What was the conspiracy? Take me through the conspiracy.
It was assembling the fraudulent electors and trying to get Mike Pence to choose them unilaterally. It was pressuring Mike Pence to do that. It was.
Is there anything criminal? So the indictment specifically said that the legal theory proposed by Eastman was criminal?
Eastman said that it was criminal. It says in the Eastman memo that it violates the ECA.
I'm going to ask you again. In the indictment, does this say that the legal first of all, why don't we answer this even better? What was the?
Yes.
Okay, so is the legal theory criminal?
If it's proposing that you break a federal law, yes.
Can I ask? I'm asking you a simple question, right?
Is the legal theory in itself criminal? No, not in itself.
Okay, perfect. So again, I'll ask you, did the indictment specify that the legal theory that was proposed to Mike Pence on January 6th by Eastman, which is what is considered to be the Eastman memo, which is simply just a legal theory, was that criminal? Was there anything? One second. Did the indictment specify that this was the conspiracy?
It was a part of the conspiracy. Everything in the indictment was a part of the conspiracy.
Okay. Are you sure? Did you read it?
Pretty sure. Yeah, I read it.
Okay, because that's not anywhere in there.
So why is it in the indictment?
Huh?
Why is it in the indictment then? Why did they list it?
Because some of Trump's lawyers went and urged certain people who weren't actually certified to represent the state on the election or in the elector ballot, went and forged a signature saying that they were.
Mm-hmm.
And that's yeah. So I'll ask you: did Trump communicate this to his lawyers?
Communicate what? To have them forge the signatures?
Correct.
No, I think that was Chesborough.
Okay. So
but acting at the direction of Trump indirectly.
Okay, so Trump told this to him?
Well, it's on behalf of the Trump campaign, and Trump knew that it was going on, and he didn't do anything about it.
He did? Did he? So he told him, hey guys, I know you guys are going to go to these states and not get an alternative slate of electors. You're just going to ask a bunch of random people and tell them to sign on this slate of electors, correct?
Well, after they had sent the electors, Trump urged them to pick those ones regardless.
Oh, yeah? Okay. So where in the indictment is that? Because that would be a pretty clear way to say that Trump actually partook in this conspiracy, right? Is that what it was laid out in the indictment?
It's strange that you're.
Is there any communication? Is there any communication in the indictment that right? Because the indictment should list some sort of communication to be part of a conspiracy, right? Saying that Trump, as the top person, told his lawyers to go to various battleground states and find slate of electors Not just alternative slate of electors, but if the people who are certified to actually be the alternative slate of electors refuse to do so, just find random people that would do that, right? Did he tell that to New Mexico as well?
It lists in the indictment.
Why did New Mexico do that? Did Trump say, "Hey, we need to get a slate of
lawyers," because they weren't going to be comfortable unless they did
wait,
that.
Wait,
but
wait,
the
wait,
lawyers in every state
why did the New Mexico? I'm gonna ask you, why did the New Mexico deliver an alternative slate of electors?
Why did they all deliver an alternative slate of electors?
Yeah, why did New Mexico? New Mexico was in a battleground state. They didn't need an alternative slate of electors from New Mexico, right? Do you think that Trump? So, do you think Trump's lawyers came to New Mexico and said we need an alternative slate of electors?
I'm pretty sure. I haven't looked into New Mexico specifically.
Well, it's it, right? Here's the thing that you're missing, and you should probably study, right? The reason why nobody actually pursued anything further with Trump's case is not because of presidential immunity. And the reason why they went for a conspiracy to defraud in 1860 charge was because they knew that they didn't have much, but decided to an attempt to somehow tie this to saying that Trump knew that his lawyers were asking people who weren't actually the certified individuals to go on and sign a alternative slate of electors. That's why individuals and states are actually being charged with forgery and not a conspiracy. This is Jack Smith's indictment, right? The individuals in states that signed onto this, they're not getting charged with a conspiracy to defraud the state, or they're not being charged with anything to do with any of this. They're being charged with forgery, right? Because a lot of these individuals, like in New Mexico, decided to gather together by themselves with no direction from anybody, not even Trump's lawyers, and meet at the Capitol and sign the alternative slate of electors because they felt like, something happened during the 2020 election. And that's the reality of it.
Why did Trump have multiple correspondences, public and non-public, with Mike Pence pressuring him to unilaterally pick the electors?
It was a bad legal theory. I'm glad that it didn't go through.
The legal theory that in the memo says that it would violate the Electoral Count Act.
I don't think so. I don't think that says that in the memo. Okay.
It does. It literally says this is where we break the procedure laid out in the Electoral Count Act.
Okay. So first of all, I think it was well, again, they believed the way they interpreted the Constitution that they have more than a ceremonial duty as a vice president on January 6th, meaning that they would skip the required amount of individuals to object to a certain slate of electors.
So are you allowed to advise your client to break a law, banking on the fact that it's going to be ruled unconstitutional, even though the Supreme Court had already codified the Electoral Count Act? Are you allowed to do that?
One second. You actually can't even answer that question, because how this process would work, because there's no statute that prohibits from this happening. What would have happened is that he would have accepted that legal theory, he would have acted on it, and probably somebody would sue that action from action happening, and it would probably came up to the Supreme Court, which then the Supreme Court would have probably delivered a whatever decision it is. But you don't know. We don't know, because it's a legal theory. And again, it is their interpretation of the Constitution.
So it was testified by Greg Jacob, Mike Pence's legal counsel, that Eastman said that his proposal would be thrown out by the Supreme Court 0-9. He said that obviously in the memo that it breaks the Electoral Count Act. So I'm going to ask again, do you think it's okay that a lawyer advised somebody to break the Electoral Count Act, banking on the fact that it was unconstitutional?
I'm going to ask you. You already answered that question. You already answered that question at the very beginning when you answered to me, what is a legal theory? And somebody in the chat is quite frankly is right. It says, who cares? Because I know you want to make this a big deal for
you. Don't care about an attempt to
No. It's not fine. Again, you're going towards a subjective feeling, which is fine. Let's try to stay on course here.
This isn't subjective at all.
Well, it is. I'm going to explain to you why. Because to Americans, voters, regardless of Republican, Democrat, whatever it is, when they're asked, what are my top 10 most important issues, January 6th or democracy and any of this stuff is nowhere on there. And we just sat here. I gave you enough time, honestly, 10 minutes of going back and forth about it. You haven't been able to provide me anything where anything is criminal. Trump hasn't been charged with anything criminal. maybe there's an indictment filed by him by a prosecutor in DC. That's fine. That's not going anywhere. And it's a long shot. That's fine. That again, that is fine.
Okay,
that
so
is your
where it would break
that is your field. So can I ask you, why would Eastman deliver a legal theory where he says, yeah, this is going to break the law?
That's a great fucking question. I have no idea because he's stupid.
Is that maybe your 12-year-old interpretation of it?
I don't know what else. This is where we diverge from the procedures laid out in the act could possibly mean other than that.
Okay, that's fine.
If you want to propose to me another thing that could mean, then I'd maybe say that it wouldn't advise.
It means that they believe. It means that they believe that the Constitution provides them a legal way of how they can proceed forward. You can't break federal
law banking on the fact that it's unconstitutional. You're not allowed to do that.
I don't think that they were proposing to break federal law.
It says in the memo, verbatim, this is where we break from the procedures laid out in the act. That would necessarily break the Electoral Count Act.
Okay, again, I don't think that they're proposing to break the actual law. They're proposing
but
that
now you're just being subjective. You're just ignoring what's in the memo.
Well, that's fine. We are both going subjective, right? Because you have your subjective feeling and I have my subjective feeling. That is our interpretation
I'm going based
of the
on
legal theory.
Subjective feeling.
Okay, that's fine. He didn't propose that in the legal theory, which is fine.
He literally did. I just read you verbatim what he said, and you can read it.
We're going in circles.
We're going in circles. Exactly.
We're literally going in circles.
I'll just bring it back. Is that you haven't been able to provide anything that provides us anything criminal that happened on January 6th. As a matter of fact, I don't think that you really interpret the Constitution better than I do.
You haven't addressed any of the like terrible procedure breaks that Trump engaged in.
Again, for you, it's a terrible procedure break, right? But again, nothing there is criminal, right? I understand that for you, it may be bad that he challenged it in courts or that he tried to object to a certain thing.
His attorney general to send a letter that was fraudulent that he was told
that is fine. That is fine. Nothing there is criminal. For you, I understand that is bad.
You can say it's not criminal. How is that not bad?
I can't believe he's
pressuring his DOJ to lie for it.
Because if you want to go into things that are bad, I can name you a bunch of things that the Democrats have done that are bad.
When did Joe Biden pressure his DOJ to lie for him?
When has Biden used the DOJ to go after individuals?
Nope, to lie for him.
When has that's what, in my opinion. That's what in my opinion it's worse. You're using the institutions in order to break law. And on that, we're gonna end. So I appreciate you coming on. And,
okay.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Fabian?
I mean, that's about the 100th time I've heard the same exact reasoning for not voting for Trump. And if you're asking someone logically, hey, do you want to live in the world where your family's having a hard time to pay bills and things are getting worse and worse?
What a dumb fuck. And now they're on and saying, oh, and he just learned a bunch about it and he wants to tell everybody about it. This is an attempt on our democracy. The fact that you don't know anything about it is your fucking fault. It's not my fault that I know what's happening within the attack on our democracy, okay? And you didn't address a single thing. You just asked, well, is that illegal? Was that illegal? Well, is that illegal? Good one.